Okay, so welcome everyone to the day 2 of React.js workshop. We're going to build this to-do app today. Let me demonstrate it real quick. If you write anything in the form and press enter or press the go button, it will be created. It'll create a to-do below the form. Let me write this by apples. So you got the idea. You can delete anything. You can edit it out. Let me just write by bread. Press enter. It got edited. If you want to delete it, it's going to get deleted through the delete button. And here it is. So that's all. So I'm going to close this browser, and then now we're going to start a fresh project. I hope my voice is loud and clear. Okay, so just like yesterday, we're going to write npx create react app and just write whatever the name of our app or our folder is. Let me write to do app day 2 or day 2, enter. So what it will do now is it's going to find the create react app package from the npm repository, or I think npm website, and it's going to bring all of those things into this package to do app day 2 package. What? Okay, so meanwhile that this is doing all of his stuff, I'm going to explain to you what Flexbox is. Okay. So yeah. So let's say we have a few divs like this. Sir, can you please tell some about Git Bash? Dipanshu, Git Bash is like a normal terminal. It's just more interactive, I guess. That's all. It's just helpful while interacting with the Git, I guess. So yeah. All right. So for example, we have 3 divs over here. What Flexbox does is if you type, and there's one parent div over here. Okay. So if you type display flex, if you typed display flex for this parent container, all of the items are going to be aligned in this row horizontally. But if you type flex direction column, then all of these boxes are going to be aligned vertically. This is what Flexbox is. If you type flex direction row, or you don't need to type flex direction row because it's by default the row. But if you type flex direction column, it's going to be aligned vertically, top to bottom. Okay. So we have one more property in Flexbox, actually 2 more properties. First one is called justify content. So justify content, if we type center, all of the items are going to be horizontally centered in this parent div. If we type space between, uh, the divs will be sorted like this in the corners evenly. If we type space around, then I guess it's going to be sorted like this with the even spaces. Not sure. We'll find out while coding. So, but we don't need to know about space around or space evenly right now. All we need to know about is justify content center on, and there's one more property, align items. If we put it to center, it's going to vertically center everything. Let's say this is our div. So these 3 boxes are going to be vertically aligned, centered. That's all about Flexbox. I hope our React app has initialized successfully. Yes, it's initialized. Let's cd into this, or we can just go to open folder and find our folder and click on select folder. So it has opened our app in this folder. Let's quickly type npm start. It's going to take a little bit of time to start our React app. Here we go. Here it is. Our React app has successfully started. So what are we supposed to do now? We are supposed to do. We are supposed to delete the files that we don't need. Those files are app.test, logo, report web something, and setup test.js. Let's delete all of these 4 files, and now you will see that it's going to complain because those files were being used somewhere, and report web vitals was used here. Let's remove here and here from both of the places, and inside app.js logo was being used over here. Let's just remove everything in app.js. Okay. And oops, what's going on over here? Yeah. Okay, it's going to complain because we have removed everything from app.js. Let's use our shortcut RAFCE. What's going on? RAFCE. It's taking a bit of time. Don't know why. Yeah, here it is. So here is our component. Let's type hello world, and it should get printed over here. Let me see the terminal. Yeah, it's compiled successfully. Yeah, here we go. Hello world has been printed successfully. So let's begin with our app. So first thing what I would like to do is, as you have seen in the to-do app that I showed you earlier, everything was centered. So I want everything to be centered in this div. So class name, let me give it a class name of app. And let's import our CSS file, import dot slash app.css. Here we go. Okay, it's imported. So let's center align everything. Okay, we need to remove everything over here first of all. What's wrong? Okay, we have removed hello world. Okay. All right, hello world is here. Let's center align this hello world. Just so I explained to you the Flexbox. We are going to use the Flexbox to center align this. What do we need to do? Display flex. So display flex, it has become a Flexbox now. Now we need to center align it horizontally, which I told you, justify content. Oops. Justify content, center. Here you go. There you see, it has center aligned, and align items center. What? Oh, okay. Because this div doesn't have a height yet. It does have a width, but it doesn't have a height yet. Let me give it the height of 100 VH, I guess. Yeah. Min height. Let the minimum height to be 100 VH. So what VH is all about? VH is viewport height. Viewport height means the size of the screen. Whatever the size of the screen will be, for example, in mobile devices, whatever the size of the screen will be, it's going to take the full width. So viewport height. All right, and let's give it a background color. background color of 282C34. Yeah, that looks good, but I think I should give it a color of white. Here we go. That looks good. Okay. Okay, so what we need to do first? So yeah. So today, through this to-do list app, I'm going to explain to you the map and filter functions in React. So let's create an array for us. Const arr. Yeah, this is the way you create an array. Let me just type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we go. So this is our array. So what if we want to print this array? So there's something called map in React. So if we type arr.map, map is just like a for loop. If you're familiar with for loop from other programming languages, it's just like a for loop. So if I type arr and I put the curly braces, since we are about to write the JavaScript, arr.map. So this is a function. Map is a function. So we're going to provide it an arrow function. Okay. So maps function takes one argument. Let's give it num, and let's print num over here inside. Let's say it's div. Okay. What's happening? Yeah. Okay. So inside JSX, we again need to write it inside a curly braces. Okay, here you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has rendered, but let's just add a comma as well. There you go. So all of those numbers have been printed with the help of map function. Did you guys get it? Anyone?
Got it.
Cool.
Yeah, bro,
Okay.
it's good.
Okay, cool. So this was the map function. Let me demonstrate you the filter function. Filter, as the name suggests, it's going to filter. What it's going to filter? Let's say I don't want 3 to be printed. So let's filter the 3 out of it. arr.filter function. It's also going to take an arrow function, and it's going to have a parameter inside it. Let's again give it num. So what num is going to be, for example, in first iteration, it's going to be 1. In second iteration, it's going to be 2. In third, 3, and so on. All right. So num. So let's say if num is is not equals to 3, only then you are supposed to print it. So num is not equals to 3, only then we're supposed to return it. Yeah, I guess it's going to work. Or did I make a mistake? Oops. Yeah, of course. We need to write it inside of a curly brace. There you go. So it has filtered out 3. Just like that, we can give it any condition that we want. I've given it this condition that we want to filter 3. So I guess you guys might have a little bit of idea how we're going to filter out the to-dos when we're going to delete it, or we're going to create it. And I mean, when we're going to render it, how we're going to render it with the help of map function. All right, next thing. So this was a normal array. What if we want to build an array in which every single item has a two, I mean, has two of the value, has two values basically, which means object. I hope you all are familiar with objects in JavaScript. For example, object ID1 and name A. Let me give it a name of A. This was the first object. Second object ID2, name name of p, let's say. So we're going to have only 2 items inside this array. So this is now an array of 2 objects, or n number of objects, which however we like to keep inside of it. So let's print it with the help of map. Also, again, if you're going to use curly braces over here, then you're going to have to use the return keyword. Otherwise, you can use the round brace. Okay, so what we're supposed to do, we're supposed to print the name. Okay, I have to give it the parameter of num. Num. What's wrong? Objects are not valid as React child. Okay, of course, because this is an object, we're going to iterate through num. So num will take whole of this. Now he doesn't know how to print an object. So we need to provide him the specific detail about what we're going to print, num dot name. So it's going to print all of the name inside those objects. First this name, then this name. Here you go. A and B have been printed. Also, one more thing, if we go to inspect in the console, it's going to give us one warning. Did it? No? Yeah, there you go. Warning. Each child in a list should have a unique key. Now, what is key? A key is something through which React identifies, React differentiates the different items inside a map function. So let me give it a key. In our case, the key is going to be the ID. So if, just a sec, let me just type num dot ID. Okay. So if we want to delete any one of these, React will know that it is supposed to delete only this object with the ID of this. So it's not going to refresh the page, and that is how React becomes so fast at times. Let me refresh it. You will see there's no error. Error is gone. So we have provided it the key. So key is used to identify an object or an item as a unique entity in itself. You'll understand more when we go on to create our project. So let me just remove this and let's start with our project. If anyone has any confusion, you can ask.
So is it like when we give in HTML some ID to the tag, so in just this JSX we have to give compulsorily this ID so that it could be
No,
helpful in.
that is the ID. But it won't break the application. But if we haven't given the JSX and ID, and this ID is only necessary while using the map or filter functions, because it is possible that you don't give it the key, but what will happen then if you have some function which removes an item from the array. So what will happen is the page will refresh. The React will not be able to identify that thing as a unique key. Since we're providing the key, so React knows, okay, I have to go to this specific place to remove this ID, so no need to refresh the page.
Okay.
Got it? Hello?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to create another div inside it with the name of container. As you all might have seen in the to-do app, there was one outline inside of which the whole to-do app was. So I'm going to create that div now. Let's write anything inside it. Let's give it one h1 tag, I think. Just a sec. Oops. H1. Okay. There it is. Let's style our container. We're going to give it a display flex and height of 80 viewport. Border of 1 pixel solid gray. Let's see how that looks. Okay, it's beginning to take the shape. Let's give it a little bit of padding. Okay, so we don't want the things to be in a row, as I explained while explaining Flexbox. If by default everything is in the row, but we want it to be upside down, so we're going to use flex direction column. And of course, align items to the center. Okay, what happens when we put the flex direction to column? Align items and justify content switch their places. First, when the flex direction is row, align items is going to align everything from a vertical viewpoint. But when the flex direction is column, the align items is going to be aligning everything horizontally. So that is what changed. Okay. And let's say font size 20 pixel, and color is already white, so I don't think I need to provide a color, but let's just provide it over here and remove it from here. Yeah. Okay, so we have created our skeleton of our app, I guess. So what we do, what we need to do inside it, let's create a form. Inside of this, our input box and our button will be there. Okay, so we're going to create a state for this later. Well, let's create our button. Here we go. What else do we need? We need a list below this to render all of the to-dos. Let's create a list below this, an unordered list. Okay, let's say this is going to be the name of our to-dos, and inside of our list, let me just keep this inside of a span. Here we go. And we need two buttons, one edit button and one delete button. First one will be edit. Here we go. Let's see how that looks. Pretty ugly. Okay, I guess that's all that we need in our app. If we replicate it, there you go. Okay, fine. So let's give them a few of a style. Let's give them a class. Okay, first of all, let me just style this input box. Let's give it a class. I don't think I need to give input and button. Yeah, we'll just keep everything same for input and buttons. Okay, so to do form. So what we want to do is this box and this button, we want it to be in one row. So let's give it display flex, which is already in a row, but I'm going to now show you what justify content space around is. Justify content space around. What? Oh, okay. I haven't given it the width. Let's give it a width of 450 pixels. There you go. You can see it doesn't look really good, but this is the space around. If I remove this space around, see, it's going to be stuck to the very left of the div or the form. But now we're going to style the input. Let's give it a width of 80%. Yeah, a little bit of padding.
Sorority house, she snuck me in. She tried to keep quiet, couldn't hold it in. I mean, the bed was too springy, the room was too dingy.
Someone's mic has been unmuted. Let's just remove the border. The border looks ugly. I guess this is our input form. Yeah, I guess this looks good. Let's style the button. I don't want to give it a border either. Okay. Padding, same 10 pixels. Okay, border 20 pixel. Yeah, cool. And margin, let me give it a little bit of margin of and a horizontal margin of 5 pixels. Yeah, that's all. You can see these buttons also have been styled because I've targeted a whole of the button class. Let us style our this list now. We're going to give it the class name of all to dos. Yeah, we're going to need a class name for the span as well. Let's say single to do. I'll explain to you why I've given this this tag a class name.
Piyush,
Yes.
instead of using multiple list elements, I can take a list component, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
you're
be
asking me to create a list component, right?
yeah, and
Yes,
this
yes, we will do that actually. I'm just here to just demonstrate this thing. We're going to use a
okay,
map function that we're just going to use it once and the map will render everything. You'll know.
okay.
Yeah. So let's remove the list style. Let's remove the list style to be none. And you can see the after removing list style, it still have a little bit of margin and padding. So let's remove the margin by margin 0 and padding 0. You see the margin and padding has been removed. One sec, I think I forgot to give the class name to this. Yeah, we need to give class name to this as well. Let's give it a name of single to do, and this text, let me just give it a class name of to do text. Okay, let me just style the to do. Okay, I'll just remove this list for now. So single to do, we're going to give it a border radius of 50 pixels. Margin of 10 pixels, up and down margin of 10 pixels, and left right pixel of 0. Let's give it a background color, some light color. Okay, looks good. I need to increase the width. Let's give it a padding first. Up down padding of 10 pixels and left right padding of 20 pixels. Yeah, it's beginning to take the shape. And I want this whole thing, this whole to do, the components inside of this to be Flexbox. And so I'm going to give it display flex. Flexbox makes your life so much easier than using normal CSS conventions. Let me give it the width of 450 pixels. Good. And let me align everything to the center. Align items center. Yeah, there you go. Everything is lined. Now you see everything is in the very right. But what I want is to have the text to take the whole of the width and edit and delete to be the very right corner of this div. So what I'm going to do is I've given this one a class for one reason, which I'm going to show you. This class, why I've given this class. So there's something called flex property. If you set it flex property to 1, notice what it's going to do. It's going to take whole of the space available to this text. If you set the flex property to 0.5, it's going to take the half of the space of container. So this is what flex property is doing. It's taking the whole of this space. So it has pushed everything to the right side. All right. So first of all, first task is to create. We're going to create to do. Okay, so here's the form. Let's give it an on submit. No, first of all, we need to create the states. Let's create the states first. We're going to have 3 states. Let me remove this thing now. We don't need it. Okay. What? I think I removed this as well. Okay. So we're going to bring in the use state. There you go. We're going to give it to do's for all of the to do. No, first of all, we need to create this for single to do. Initial value will be nothing. So it's going to complain because I haven't imported use state. So let me just import use state from React. It's going to stop complain now. Hopefully. Yes. What? Use state is not defined. I've already defined it. Yeah, there you go. So one state is for a single to do. While creating a single to do, one state is going to be for all of the to do's. And you see all of the to do's, this state is going to be an array. So let's just give it an empty array. Okay. And the third one is going to be, okay, we don't need it right now. Let's just create the to do's. So we're going to create a function called handle submit. So on submit means whenever we submit this form, whenever we click on the button, let me just give it the button of type submit. So whenever we're going to click on submit, what it's going to do, it's going to fire off a function called handle submit. Handle submit is a convention of writing this function's name like handle something, handle this, handle what. We're going to handle submit over here. So, okay, we have not defined handle submit. So that's why it's complaining. Let's define that function. Const handle submit. We're going to make it an arrow function as usual. Okay, so what is going to happen inside of handle submit? Let's see. We want everything, we want everything that is written inside of the input box to go to the handle submit function, and it's going to append it in this to do's array. So first of all, what we need to do is whatever we write inside of this box, it should get updated in to do. All right. So let's see. On change, whenever this changes, we're going to call set to do. we're just setting a single to do right now. So what did I explained yesterday? How are we going to do this with the with the event e dot target dot value? Now, whenever this will change, it's going to change the to do variable as well. Let's bring it over here. Okay, here's the main things. First of all, whenever we click on go, this handle submit function will be fired. We don't want it to be want it to refresh our page, so we're just going to give this e dot prevent default. We do this all of the time in normal web development. I hope you guys are familiar. If we want to prevent it from refreshing now, if I click on go, it's not going to refresh the page. Okay, so what do we need to do now? So we've written something here. It has gone inside the to do with the help of set to do. So we want to append it to this array. How are we going to do this? We're going to use something called spread operator. But first of all, we need to check if this should not be empty. If this is empty, we don't want it. If to do is not equal to empty. If to do is not empty, we're going to do this. We're going to set to do's. You see, that was set to do. That was single to do, but now we're going to do set to do's. So how that will happen? It's going to be an array. So whatever it has inside of it, it's going to take all of that and the ID of and the value of this input box. 1 second. Okay, set to do's. Yeah. Okay, so I explained you all what that we need to give a specific ID to every to do. While we are going to use the map function, it should have a single ID as well. So I'm going to give it an ID value and an ID, and other thing that we need is to do itself. That to do whatever we wrote here will go as another field, and first field will be ID. So we need to make it a unique ID. How are we going to make it a unique ID? Let's just, so I'm using something called backtick over here. Inside the backtick normal string, inside a normal string, you cannot write variables. You cannot write to do inside of a normal string. But inside of a backtick, you can write a string like this using this $sign and curly braces to do. Here you go. And to make this ID unique, for example, let's say, for example, a user enters two to-dos with the same name. How are we going to make it unique? So what I'm going to do is add another variable inside is date.now. So date.now is what? The date.now is going to give the current time in the millisecond, since the date of 1971. You just Google it out, you'll notice it. So date.now always produces a unique number. So that's all. We're just providing it one to do, and other than that, we need all of the other to dos that's already inside of it. So comma, this is spread operator. What spread operator is doing is to dos. Yeah, it's taking all of the to dos that were already inside of that array and adding this this object to the list. So now to dos has been updated. Whenever we click on the go function, it has updated the to dos variable over here. Let me just do the map now. So I'm going to map through this. Oops. If any confusion, you can ask. So we need to map through to dos. To dos.map. Let's give it T. Okay, so we need this list inside of this.
Hi, Piyush.
Hi.
Hi, Anina here.
Hi, Nina. Yes.
Uh,
Sorry.
yeah, Anina here.
Yes. Yes.
You have given the ID for to do,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
For setting to do,
Mm-hmm.
Is it like the key value which we are giving for the map function?
Yes,
Is it
exactly. It's for the key value.
okay.
We want it to be unique. Every ID of every to do should be unique. So it should so that the key is unique for that. There are many ways to create a unique ID. We can use a package called UUID as well, which creates a random ID every time we call that function. But we have to install this function. So right now I'm just going to use this. Is it clear, right?
Okay. Yeah, clear. Fine.
Okay, cool. So we're going to map inside
Yeah,
of
why we have written IDs in back commas?
hmm?
Why we have written IDs in back commas?
In inverted comma, because we want it to be a string.
Okay.
Yeah, because we want it to be a string. There's a dash between this, If I just remove this and write it, and like if we save it, oops, what happened? Where did it go? If I save this, it's gonna give me an error. See? So that's why I want it to be a string. Okay, so it's going to map through all of the to-dos here. Let me just write here t dot. So this is the whole of the function. T is whole of the object. Sorry, t is whole of the object. What we want is this to do. So t dot to do. Let's save it. See, let me refresh it. Let's see. React and just press enter. Here you go. If I type anything else, press enter. Anything else? It's going to just a second, people. My laptop's battery is dying. I need to connect it. Okay, I'm back. So you all understand what's going on over here? Any confusions?
No, it's clear.
Okay, great. So we're creating to-dos like this. Next, we're going to create the delete function. Here it is, the delete function. So what you want to do is when we click on, for example, this delete button or this delete button, it's going to send the unique ID of this. Okay, first of all, I haven't provided the ID. So I need to provide this an ID. That is key. So what was our key? T.id. Okay, cool. So what when we click on delete button, it's going to send this unique ID to a particular function that we're going to name handle delete. So that function is going to filter out this or anything that any to do that we click delete on. It's going to filter it out from our array. Let's see how to do that. So on click. I hope this on click is clear. It's all click is an event that's being fired. So we're going to create a function called handle delete. Oops. Handle delete. What we need to provide it? We need to provide the ID, t.id, the unique ID. So handle delete has not been defined, so it's going to complain again. Const handle delete. There you go. Okay, so we need to write a filter function inside of it. So let's just do this. Const delete to do. First of all, we're going to take everything inside of this delete to do variable. So to do's dot filter Let's create a function inside this as I demonstrated. Let's say t or anything. Let's see if it's something unique, to, and to do dot id. Wait a minute. Okay, I've sent the id from there, but I haven't received it in here. I'm going to write id. TO, I've given it the TO, so it's going to compare everything. If it matches this ID, then it's going to be removed. Otherwise, if it doesn't matches, I've given it not equals to. If this ID of the current to do, if this current to do's ID is not equal to this one, then it's not going to be deleted. I mean, it's going, it's not going to be deleted. Otherwise, it's going to be deleted. Let me show you. Click on delete. Okay. We haven't updated the state yet. We need to update the state, set to do's. And let's just pass this delete to do array inside of it. It's an array because it's going to return an array, right? Because all of the objects that are inside it are going to be an array. So it's going to return an array. So let's write with the help of spread operator. This is the spread operator, the 3 dots as I explained earlier. Here you go. Now let's click on delete. Here you go. That one has been deleted. Delete, delete, delete. Let me demonstrate it again. Let's A, B, C, D. Oh, okay. I have missed one thing. Whenever we type a to do and press enter, you see the text is still there. We don't want the text to be still there. We want the input box to be emptied. So after we type on submit, we want set to do, the single to do state to be empty. We want that to be empty. And it's still not going to work. Why? Because we haven't provided the value to the input box yet. So let's go to the input box and let's say value equals to do. So it's changing the value through here and it's taking the value through here. So if I type A, enter, it's empty. If I type Piyush, enter, it's empty again. Okay, let's get back to the handle delete function. So if I click on the delete button of A, what it will do, it's going to send the ID of A. It's going to compare with each and every object. And if it matches, then it's going to delete it. If it doesn't matches, it's going to return this. That's all. So we have created handle submit and handle delete. Now we're going to create handle update or handle edit. On click, we're going to create a function called handle edit. We are again going to pass it the ID. There you go. But handle delete is not defined yet, so it's going to complain. So we're going to define that. Okay, first of all, there's a 2-step process over here. Let me just save it so that error goes away. Okay, there's a 2-step process over here. Let's say I wrote these two to do. Whenever I click on edit, I want whatever is written inside this block to be written inside of here like this. Whenever I click on edit, that should be written inside of here, and this go should change to edit. I want that. How is that going to happen? Let's see. First of all, in handle delete, we're going to implement this feature of this text should be written over there. So we have sent the ID. Whenever we click on edit, it's going to take the ID of that particular to do. So let us receive the ID over here. So I'm going to introduce a new function to you, which is called find. Const, let's give it edit to do. So to do's is an array which contains all of our to do's. So to do's, we need to find a single to do. Find. This also takes a function. Oops. Okay, let's give it a variable. Let's say I. So what it's going to do, it's going to iterate through every single array element. And when it finds that one element which has the same ID that we're trying to find, it's going to return the whole of the object with ID and the to do. Let us see. I.id. If I.id is equals to our ID, which is this one, ID. If it finds that ID, it's going to return whole of that particular element of the array inside of this edit to do. So now we know what we need to edit. So we need to type set to do. Now we're going to set to do again. If we change, make any change to set to do, it's going to directly reflect on input box because we have given the value of to do over here. So let's set to do. Let us just copy this, edit to do, and paste over here. But still, edit to do is an object which contains an ID and a to do. So we want a to do dot to do. Whoops. To do. Enter. Let's see if it works now. Let me click over here. Edit. See, it's going to change the value in input box. If I click over here, see, it changes hello. Okay, but we need one more thing. We need one more state to tell us if it is in edit mode or not. Let me create another state over here. Use state. Let's give it a name of edit ID. Initial value, let's say it's going to be 0. Edit ID will contain the ID of the variable that we need to edit. Okay. So let's set the ID, set the edit ID over here. What ID we need to edit? This one that we are receiving over here. ID. Okay, that's all that handle edit is going to do. Let me just type anything. Okay, so if you type edit, it's going to here and fill it up. Now, second step is to change this go to edit. So where is our go button? Now we're going to do some conditional rendering over here. We will check if edit, oops, I need to type it inside of the curly brace. If edit ID, if there's something inside of edit ID, question mark, is there something inside of edit ID? Okay, we're going to return edit. Otherwise, we're going to return go. If there's nothing inside it, we're just going to return go. Let's save it. Let's find out. See, there was something inside of here. Let me just refresh it. Now it's on the go. Let me type something. Okay, the moment I press edit, you will see this has changed and the go has been changed to edit. So that's the magic of React. Okay. Now the third and final step is whenever we press edit button, this should get edited and reflect on our array. How are we going to do this? This is the most difficult step. So watch closely. So we're coming back to our handle submit because handle submit is what handles the submitting of the form, right? So inside of the handle submit, we're going to check, is there anything inside of edit ID? Is there anything inside of edit ID? Then we're going to enter it. Otherwise, we will never enter it and we will just skip past it and just normally create our to do. So if there anything inside of edit ID, then we're going to create const edit to do. Now again, we're going to find that particular to do that we need to edit. So this one, we need to edit this to do. So let's just type to do's dot find. We need to find our particular to do. So I dot ID. If it's equal to our ID, that's all we want. So now we got our ID is not defined. Okay, of course, this is not ID. This is edit ID. Yes. Yes. You see? So now we have our to do element. Now we need to edit it. This is the difficult part. We're going to write const updated to do's equals to do's dot map. We're going to iterate through whole of the array. We're going to go through every single element of the array, and let's find where this element exists. And whenever we find this and when we find this element, we're just going to edit it with our edited to do. Oops, sorry. I mean, we're going to edit it with this value, whatever that is inside of the input box, because whatever that's inside of the input box is the value of this to do state. So let me check t.id. We're going to give it a t, a single element. This is going to be t, this is going to be t for every iteration. So t.id, if it is equal to edit to do dot id, is it equals to our id that we're trying to find? Is it? Question mark, is it? So what we will do, oops. So what we will do, we're going to do is t equals, why does this this is appearing here, t equals in the bracket, yeah, t equals, we're going to give it the same id, t dot id, because id never changes, and the to do. Otherwise we're going to give it the id similar id. I think I made a mistake somewhere. This, if it's, yeah, otherwise yeah. ID, I'll explain to you guys 1 minute. I hope it's working. Yeah. Okay. So what I did over here, it's going to go to check if the ID of this edit to do matches the ID that we're trying to find. It's going to match it with every, what is it? Which functions we have used to update the to-do list? We have used this function, handle submit. Handle submit. To do the handle edit function, what it is doing is it's just taking this value and just putting it over here. That's all its task it, and it's changing this button. And it's updating the edit ID state. Okay. So after it, as I mentioned, it found the to-do that we're trying to edit, and then, okay, fine. So it's trying to find the to-do where, so it's going to ask, is it the to-do that we're trying to update? Yes, if it said yes, it is the to-do that we're trying to update, then we're going to provide it the original ID and the to-do, whatever that's written inside of this block. Whatever we have changed the to-do state, we're going to provide that state. Otherwise, we're just going to provide its default value, the normal ID and the normal to-do. Let's just try it. Let me refresh the app. Yes. So let me type learn React by apples. Let me click on edit. Here you go, by apples. If I edit it to buy food, it has now edited our to-do variable, a single to-do variable. It has edited that single to-do variable. And now when I press on edit, it's going to find out the IDs. If that ID matches with this ID, which it will match this ID. So it's going to replace the to-do that's inside it with the to-do of current state. So let me press edit, and here you go, buy food. Oops, something wrong. Why did it created a second state? I think we made a mistake somewhere. Okay, obviously we need to set the to do. We have taken the whole of this updated to do's array, but we haven't set the state yet. State of to-dos, set to-dos, the major state here, the main state. So we're going to enter updated to-dos, or we could have used the spread operator as well. So after we updated the state, now we are no longer in edit mode. So let's just type set edit id to back to 0 and set to do as well, single to do as well. It should also be empty. This input box should also be empty. So let's just give it empty string and return it. We don't want to go further, right? If we go further, we're going to land over here, then it's going to create another to do. We don't want that, so we're going to return from here. Let's just try again. Let's change by food to by orange. Enter. There you go. That's the change. And successfully the edit is working. So this was our to-do list app. Hope you guys like it. Any acknowledgement? We didn't create any components yet because that is what we're going to do tomorrow. We are going to refactor this code into different components. But today, what I want you all to do is create this. Okay. Meanwhile, we have time. So let's just push into our GitHub. Let's just cut it, kill the process. Let me open the browser. Let me open GitHub. So how we're going to push it on GitHub, we're going to click on new. We're going to give it a repository name. So React.js workshop day 2 and click on create repository. So I've created this repository. I need to copy this line, copy, git remote add origin over here. Oops, remote origin already exists. Okay, we need to type git init first, and then we need to type it. Do it public. Yes, it is public. If it's not, I'll make it public. So type git add dot. When we type it, it's going to upload it in our local directory. Now we need to type git commit with a message. So to do list app, enter. Now we're going to push it into our git repository. Git push origin master, enter. So it's uploading everything and successfully uploaded. Now if we refresh this page, here you go. Our code is over here. So what you need to do now, just go to this link. I will provide this link in the group. Click on this fork button and this project will be inside your profile of GitHub. Then when this project is inside the your profile, you can just go over here in the click on code and copy this line. And just like yesterday, you need to clone this repository by typing git clone paste, and then you can clone it. You can clone it in your local directory and then cd to that directory. So I'll go over this git even more tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to refactor this code into different components. We're going to create different component for form. We're going to create different component for this list. But I hope everything was clear that I shared today. Any confusions?
No, bro. It's all fine. Everything is clear.
Great, man. Okay, so shall we end this session right here? Thank you for attending React.js Workshop Day 2. And goodbye. Tomorrow we're going to have a Q&A session. You are going to create this app as a homework for today, this to-do app. Try to give it some of your own personal styling if you want to. Otherwise, it's not necessary. If you want, you can. So tomorrow is going to be a Q&A session. I'm going to refactor this code, a Q&A session. If there's any confusion amongst you all, I'm going to solve it. And yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Piyush.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.